isn't here. I hear a lot that people say, I hear it every year and multi-times a year. Gosh, I would do what you do, cross fencing, but electric fencing is so doggone much work. And it can be if you don't enjoy it. But looking at for the next hour spent and the next dollar invested, where do we get the best return on that? And for me, more times than not, it's been this type of stuff. Compared to cropland, yes. And I enjoy it a heck of a lot more. And I don't have tiny, intense pastures where I'm doing mob grazing, but I can do it. It doesn't take me very long to take a pasture or a paddock and divide it up. And when I had kids at home yet, we'd do a lot of hand cranking of these reels here. And especially if you use an aircraft cable, they're doggone heavy, especially after holding it for 10 minutes. But then I was thinking, gosh, that's a lot of work. And through my good friend, a departed friend now, Neil Dennis, gave me the inspiration and the idea. And I woke up early one Sunday morning and I had something pictured in my mind. It was 20 below. I walked out to the pasture and took an electric gear drive motor off an old Gandhi applicator box that I had on the cultivator. And I warmed up the shop. I started at 6:30 that Sunday evening, 7 o'clock the next morning. No blueprint, just picture in my mind. I built that thing. And I've been using it at least 20 years. And Dane, would you like to just pull that wire out and poly wire out in front and extend? And I didn't have any kids at home anymore for doing that kind of labor. That's good, Dane. So, and anyway, the very first time I turned it on, I'll show you what happens. I gotta hook it up. I can drive along and putting the fence out. This is unrolling beside me. I'm reaching behind, grabbing the post, step it in, hook the wire. Once in a while there's a stubborn one, I gotta use a hammer or something to step it in, or maybe move it because of a rock. That's more likely. But I've fenced a quarter in 2 hours, in less than 2 hours. And wrapping it back up, I drive along, unhook the cable or the poly wire from the post, collect the post, come back along the line and hook it up. I'll move the reel from here over to here and just snap it in place, and I start driving. But he's holding it now. You can let go. I can drive. I just, like a fish reel, I'm just guiding it where it goes. That's it. I smile every time I use it because I call it my lazy fencer. There's times this paddock here I've divided it in half, going diagonal or wherever, because if I want more impact on this brome here on this part, I use this to put that fence up. I have a water tank over here just behind the cabin. Things like that. It's a tool, but I smile every time I use it. And when I built it and I started talking to fencing companies and checking on patenting it, it would cost me around $28,000 to $32,000 to get a patent. And fencing companies told me they weren't interested because there's no market for anything like that, no interest. And immediately I thought, it's so simple, they can take and build their own. So I talked to a friend of mine, he was in Nebraska at the time, Terry Gumpert. He suggested putting it on public domain where anybody can build their own and nobody will be able to patent it. Nobody can profit on what someone else came up with. So that's what I did. It's been on public domain close to 20 years. And it's never been a blueprint or a drawing, a measurement of it until last winter. I suggested this to Ducks Unlimited and do it in memory of Neil Dennis. This was one of my best friends. He used to say we'd talk to each other more often than each of us talked to our own mothers. He was from Wawota, Saskatchewan. We compared notes all the time. I'd call him in the spring and say, Neil, the cowbirds are here. 7 to 12 days later, he'd call me saying they made it there. Things and different species of grass, rubbing elbows about how we do this, do that, tweaking management. But we put this in memory of Neil Dennis and then myself. Through the cooperation of Ducks Unlimited, they took measurements of it. And any of you that are interested can go build your own. And they brought some drawings along of the measurement stuff. You guys can tweak. Any of you can tweak and make your own, but there won't be anybody making it and commercializing. And that's the story of my Easy Fencer. And fencing, there's a lot of cost sharing. This I did on my own. This is old telephone wire here. It's probably been in a good 30 years. And the one going south from here has probably been in 25 years. I didn't put all my cross fencing up in 1 year. Probably took me about 15 to 20 years to tweaking. And have pasture water lines, shallow lines, and that's a must. Whatever you do, start cross fencing, start doing different management planning. I'd say water is the first criteria. Have 4 to 5 times as much water as you originally need, because you eventually will be doing it more. Run into a dry year, dry forage. I've had when the humidity is in the low teens and the high tens, like 8, 10, 12, 14% relative humidity. I was hauling water in the late 80s. Found out a cow-calf pair can drink up to 50 gallons a day. That's way above what the average chart would say. But it's fun. It's a good return. 300% extra pounds of beef per acre, 430% increase in forage production. And it goes along with butterfly counts that you've had on yours, Ryan. And here, more insects. They all aid in everything. There's a little one right there. And the fencing, Dane Bicey, if you're here, there's Ducks Unlimited assistance. Also with water. If you want to give a few minutes on that, Dane, you want right here? We're all in this together. It isn't just me. Ken Miller, he spent a lot of years working in the soil district office assisting producers. He's got his own stories to tell. He's one of my mentors. I've learned a lot from Ken. Chad's dad, John Lee Nays, the Maddocks. There's a lot of people here that are probably a lot sharper than I am, and I know they are sharper than I am in some areas on this. So there's a lot of wisdom here today to rub elbows with.
Well, thanks for the little bit of time, Gene. I wasn't expecting that. But as many of you can see, Gene likes to share some of his knowledge. And I'm sure he's lost more than I have already learned in my short time in life. But one of the things when he was talking about this fencer, one of the cool things that he didn't mention is that it has a little slip clutch in it. So if you're driving along and all of a sudden it gets stuck and your handle snaps off, that doesn't work so well.
When I first built it, I put the reel on and turned it on. Came to the end and snapped the handle off the reel. Then I went and built a slip clutch. That little spring on there comes from an old John Deere press drill. For cost sharing and assistance and stuff, Dane, for helping with people for management, tweaking.
All right, well, definitely appreciate it and didn't expect any time. But yeah, pretty awesome that there's this many people here today with everything that's been going on. I'm actually setting up a bachelor party for my best friend back home, and 33 out of 34 people are able to make it. I went, how does that happen? I guess no one has nothing going on, so. But no, one of the things that we do is assist farmers and ranchers with enhancing their operations through different ideas that they have. And a lot of the ideas and the grant proposals that we do put into the Outdoor Heritage Fund, say it could be in North Dakota, a lot of the ideas come from farmers and ranchers just like yourselves. And so I just want to encourage you, if you have an idea that you wanted to share with people, or if you're trying to find a way to expand it and make it work, we'll do our best to find some funding for it so you can actually apply it to other people's operations and see if it works in other areas of the state. There's a rancher not too far from here who I was trying to find a water crossing fence, because a lot of guys have issues with these wetlands that are flooding up because they don't have the right infiltration rates. And I was told to go visit with this rancher. And he said, sure, come out, check it out. We go out there and look at this fence, and there's these giant buoys. They're 24 inches in diameter. They're used on the Great Lakes. Said it took him 35 years to design that fence. A lot of trial and error. But this fence had been in for 11 years. And it looks brand new. It goes across just under 1,000 feet of water. He has buoys placed every 100 feet going across there. And so when your water levels are changing, it floats with it. Leaves it out there during the winter, no need to take it down. You just take your little fencer out there, set it out, hook it up, call it good for the year. And that was just pretty amazing. And I had talked to him, and we got a little design together and been sharing it with others. And some people are starting to adopt it in other areas of the state. And so looking to see how it works in other areas. But a lot of these ideas that are happening on the landscape come from producers like yourselves. And some of the things that we have done in cooperation with the farmers and ranchers is our cover crop and livestock integration project. And as many of you know, you don't see a lot of cows grazing cropland. You're starting to see more, which is pretty encouraging. But one of the things that there was a need for was fencing and water systems on cropland. So that's one of the projects that we've been working on quite frequently throughout this whole summer. And it's helping integrate farmers and ranchers together to work cooperatively, because a lot of guys just want to farm and some guys just want to ranch. So we're encouraging people to interact with your neighbor. Go talk to the farmer down the road who's never had a cow on his property. Maybe he'd be open to some aftermath grazing, get that additional fertilizer out there. It's kind of a win-win deal, and been seeing some great benefits from it. I've only had it for a couple of years now, but there is cost share available for that, and it's 60% cost share. And NRCS has a lot of good specs to go by if you're looking for questions on how to design a fence or how you should put in a water trough system. They've got some great designs built by their engineers. Also, there's a ton of different programs out there. The Natural Resources Trust has their Working Grasslands Partnership. If you have expiring CRP and you want to integrate some fencing out there because it hasn't been fenced in 30 years, or if you need water out there, a lot of CRP fields don't have water wells, so it's able to help with that. And then if it's expiring in this year, you're going to have a habitat incentive payment. That's $5 an acre for the 10-year agreement that they do. So just a little more encouragement to have it in grass, encourage it to be a working system so you got livestock out there. We also have funding for projects on federal lands or state school trust lands, and we're working with people to get water out there with wells, doing cross fencing, solar systems, all that type of stuff. And yeah, just sharing ideas, and as Gene says, exchanging knowledge and sharing with others. So, thanks.
I'm gonna hold the mic for me. Just multiples of little things about, get back to still on the fencing. Insulators. Good insulator. These white ones versus this black one, they're both Gallagher. This one is over 20 some years old. The black one, still firm and solid, even though it's a different shape. But these white ones, just very brittle. 3 years later, they're just snapping. If you can avoid it, don't buy a white insulator. Rather than buying a more expensive white insulator, buy a cheap one. Even though they're a little soft, they'll bend, they last longer than these doggone white ones. But if you can find them, buy the black one. I have some that are 35 years old and they're still good. Black. just little tips. Another tip for corner bracing, H braces. I'll never build another one. Right here, the Kiwi Brace. Those you want to go look at it, see how they're made. You can wire across the bottom with a wire ratchet tightener. You can actually snap a post off with that system right there. They'll work good in soft soil as long as you have a nice base for the bottom end of that rod or the post, that brace to sit on. Hundreds of little things.
And then as for this fencing design concept, we do have 10 copies that are actual paper if you want to take one home with you. But we'll get together a little sheet of paper, and if the Grazing Lands Coalition or someone wants to do a mailing with the design concept, that can be sent out by email too. So there are...
Just put it on your website?
It'll be on a website somewhere. You'll get a notification. Yep.
With that disclaimer on it. How much healthier the cows look? Where's Grant? He owns some of the cattle that we get in here. Right there. Do you have a... Okay. You didn't know this, did you?
Oh, I was just saying that they do quite well and pretty good average daily gain with the cattle.
Better than a season long?
I would say so, yep.
Okay. Yes, but depends on the season long, if it's light, moderate, heavy. Temporarily, they can do better on season long rate of gain, but what about the pounds of beef per acre? How much has that increased? 20%, 50%, 300%. When I first started this stuff, it was 1980. By 1990, I was about 35% increase in the numbers on the herd. I was getting a little more pounds of beef. And then I started doing more intense holistic management, sold the creep feeder, and rate of gain on my calves was same cows, same bulls. Jumped up from, instead of 1.7, when I started doing that 8 pasture paddock level cell grazing 3 times around, it was only 27, 28 days rest recovery. Went from 1.8 pounds per day average daily gain in my calves down to 1.5. And I got concerned. But then I started doing more intense management, more cross fencing, sold the creep feeder. The very next year, same cattle, I tweaked my management, and the average daily gain shot up to 2.1. Does that help? And then also through the years there, this was 1980s, early 90s prices on salt and mineral supplement. I was going through an average of about $20 per cow-calf pair per year. That's not counting the backgrounding for salt and mineral in the calves that once they were weaned, it was backgrounding, and feedlot was a separate enterprise. After thinking how it went from an average of about $20 per cow-calf pair, those days prices, went down to about 80 cents per cow-calf pair per year for salt and mineral supplement. And I was running double the herd. I'd like to think the soil, the forages were getting healthier, and better minerals, nutrient cycling, deeper rooting. We have up to 4 to 10x rooting depth enhancement. Here, that's quantified by Streeter here at NRCS here, there, and out here with the backhoe digging. They're getting deeper rooting, bringing nutrients deeper and more flush. That's an extra, what, $19 a head profit per cow-calf pair. That's in the 203 days of the age of the calf. Yeah. Does that help? definitely the vet bill dropped way down. They were healthier. They're more content. Of course, I was select for that too. Talking, what?
Can we ask when you guys get out? Earlier, later, get
Though, I have some right over the hill here, a herd of 62 first calf heifers. They were calving in April into May, but I don't own them. So this year, last year you had them in over there, Grant and mine, about May 15th. This year it'll be tomorrow. Right. So he's switched, he's grazing what he grazed last. He's grazing his early this year, mine later. Last year he grazed mine early. The time and timing all the time, change. So they're never at the same place, the same time of year. And if I say once in 10 years they'll be here July 31st, the growth conditions and weather conditions can change, so it might end up being sort of 3 times in 10 years according to growth conditions. See, but minimizing that same time of year exposure for managing for diversity. Livestock are healthier, and you start moving around like that, you're breaking up the disease cycles and the insect cycles, the internal parasites. And if you start selecting culling, where's the lady vet? There she is. And she mentioned, oh yes, 2 falls ago I was in Dickinson sharing. She says, oh yes, cull to 10%. If you have a bunch of flies in your herd on the animals, they're not uniform across all the animals. You'll have a few that have a lot of them on and others that don't have many. Get rid of those that have a bunch of flies. Start selecting for fly resistance. And same way with lice. Some will be really clean. You'll have a few animals will just be loaded with them. Get rid of them. Give them to McDonald's. And Josh back here smiles. He can give you a lot of wisdom on all this too. I got to thank everybody for coming. The biggest part of this that I enjoy seeing today is all the youth that are here. This is a family activity. I strongly believe our youth is our future, our country's future. Audrey, and all of you. There is going to be activities for youth later on here. Jerry, do you want to take over?
And then we're going back.
Okay.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Whoa. Let's give Gene a great big hand for all his work today and for all his accomplishments. Now we're going to go back down, and we sure encourage you all to stay for dinner. Burgers and good visitation. That's part of the whole deal of this, is just sharing things. And like Gene said, there'll be some kids' activities. And you made mention of the young people here, and I am too appreciative. You know, there's a lot of you that are, maybe you're way into this, or maybe you're just thinking about it, and don't hesitate to reach out to folks that have done some things. And not that we have all the answers, we have more questions than answers usually, but at least we've tried some stuff. We can help you not make the same stupid mistakes we made, and sometimes that's helpful. So I encourage you to do that, and we'll visit a little bit as we get back down there as to exactly what's happening. So with that, let's all head back that direction. Thanks a lot.